What's up everyone, this is Pana, and recently I got top 16 in Peak of the Big 8 with not Virus, but Ancient Gears. And yeah, I just wanted to talk a bit about the deck and the tournament, because I think a lot of the players right now, they think this deck is garbage. But I mean, I'm not saying it's top 10 decks in the format, but it for sure can compete. So yeah, and it has some good matchups. So I'll just go card by card, and yeah, let's see. So first off, you of course got the Ancient Gear Beast, and this card is pretty crazy. You know, it can be special summoned, but you can normal summon it under Gear Town, because Gear Town says both players can normal summon Ancient Gear monsters for one less tribute. And so basically you can normal summon this guy, and Gear Town is pretty searchable in this deck. So this guy basically, when he attacks, the opponent cannot activate any battle traps, as any of the Ancient Gears do. And yeah, it can negate Raikos, Hamsters, and a lot of other stuff. So it's pretty crazy, because a lot of people think that this effect does not really apply like when the flip summon. So when I attack a Raiko, they think that they get to pop and then Gear Beast negate it. No, Gear Beast negates everything. So it negates the Raikos, negates the Hamsters. And what's cool about this card, it negates them even if they're in the graveyard. So if you attack a Treeborn, then that Treeborn cannot activate. If you attack a Goblin Zombie, then it cannot search. If you attack a Recruiter, like a Tomato, they can do nothing. So it shuts down a lot of the strategies. A Vayu, for example, it can't activate. Yeah, but it's usually attacking a Raiko or a Hamster, and it's great when it does that. So yeah, you have to play the 3 Gaziltron Dragon. This guy is basically just to come out for the for Gear Town. And what's also important is that this guy, along with the Gear Golem, they're both level 8s, so you can pitch them for to summon a free fortress from the graveyard. So even if you draw them, it's like not that awful in this deck, because a lot of the times you'll be like, oh, I bricked on Gaziltron. Well, you can discard it and special the fortress from the graveyard, which is pretty decent. I play the 3 Ancient Gear Golem. This card is not actually that bad. Like, it's not like best card in the deck, but it for sure is not bad. He's an Ancient Gear, so you will see in my replays, like a lot of the times I brain controlled and like tributed for Golem. Like, I'm not saying that that is like a great play, but you can do that with Gear Town. And he just does piercing damage and immune to mirror force. And sometimes that's just good enough, because even if you like attack a Raiko, you do 2900, he goes, but only thing you care about in this deck basically is just dealing a bunch of damage. So yeah, you just summon him, and he just bypasses a defense position monster, and yeah, sometimes that's just enough. But you could definitely cut it for like a Machina Force or something. Yeah, you can play around with the ratios. So Cyber Dragon, of course, this is a Machine deck. You gotta play it. A Cyber Dragon pitch with a Fortress. Summon the Fortress, pretty self-explanatory, great for going second, for whatever, and just a great card overall. And it's the card that also messes you up a lot, because if your opponent has a Cyber Dragon, this deck really gets screwed up by Cyber Dragon, because you tend to have like 2 Gaziltrons and a Fortress, and they just Chimera take your whole thing, and then you're kinda done. Fairy Lily, so this is a bit spicy. A lot of people disagree with this one. They're like, why are you even playing Fairy Lily? And as you can see, like, I don't have this deck does not have that many normal summons. So Gear Frame, of course, is a great normal summon, and you have these utility guys that I'll talk about later. But this is like a good low commitment, like 3400 damage monster, and yeah, that's pretty good. Like, so sometimes when my opponent, like, I suspect he has oppression or something, like I can normal summon Lily, it pretty much gets under oppression and other stuff that the other guys get hit by, like bottom bliss and whatever. It also goes to 3400, which is like more than Suraka loot, which is also comes up sometimes. And yes, it's just good overall. Like sometimes I don't want to go full commit. I just normally attack, and they just take a bunch of damage, and that's just good enough for me, at least. Yeah. So the main star of the show: Machina Gear Frame, Machina Fortress. Machina Gear Frame is the best card you want to see. So this is the whole Machina engine. I'm playing 3 Gear Frame, 3 Fortress, and the Peacekeeper. And basically, Machina Gear Frame is so good that I really wanna play the Peacekeeper to maximize chances of me drawing it, and also it has some like micro synergy with the Morphing Jar. As you can see, there's not like any other monsters I really want to be setting in this deck, so if I set the Peacekeeper, for example, and my opponent attacks it, then I get a gear frame, and then the next game maybe I can set another guy, and the opponent has the idea that it is probably like a Peacekeeper, so they go attack and they fell into the Morphing Jar trap. And Morphing Jar is really great in this deck because you can basically pitch your whole hand and special summon all the fortresses, all the Gadgetrons, and yeah, it's great. Yeah, so I'm not playing Force because you usually already have in your hand like a bunch of level 8s, and Force is kind of a brick, like if you draw it without searching it, but it did come up like 2 times I think in the tournament that I could have searched Force and it would have put me in a better position. So I'm not opposed to trying it, like maybe cutting a Golem and adding Force, but yeah, we will see. And besides these monsters, we have Grandmo. Grandmo is crazy in this deck. As I said, you don't have like, besides the gear frame, you have like some freedom towards your normal summon. And this guy outs everything this deck does not like. So Spirit Reapers, like Recruiters or whatever, like Gores, Colossal Fighter or any Synchros, they are really annoying to deal with for this deck. So Grandmo just goes, attacks, outs like anything, absolute zero, yeah. The Arm Wings, yeah, it's just a good card overall, and yeah, there's no reason not to play it. Brain Control, so Brain Control, as I said earlier, you can Brain Control and like tribute their monster for an Ancient Gear Lars guy, that I did a lot during the tournament. But you can also, it's just a burn card, like you take the biggest guy and you just attack for game. Like most of the time that's what I do, and it's just so good. Even if you're not tributing, but you can also just tribute for the beast or these guys if Gear Town is up. Yeah, so Gear Town and the 3 terraforming, of course. The field spell package, it's so good because you have the 3 terraforming, so you most likely will have some amount of field spell, and usually you will try to hold the terraformings or the Gear Towns, because if you throw like multiple terraforming, you don't want to shotgun it, because then if you throw terraforming plus Gear Town the next turn, then you can terraforming to summon the gods turn, and etc. And of course, with these field spells, you want to add the Mausoleum, which is a mandatory include in my opinion, because this deck has struggles with oppression, and this is a way to get over it, because you can just normal summon your big guys, and sometimes that's just enough to win you the game. Yeah, or a lot of times you just go Gear Town, summon 2 Gadgetrons and flip the Mausoleum and normal summon like a Golem from your hand, and that's also another way to go for game. Yeah, so Heavy Storm, I mean every deck plays Heavy Storm, but I think it's particularly good in this deck because you basically can set your Gear Town, Heavy Storm, so you get rid of their back row and you summon a Gadgetron in case you don't have another field spell, for example. So yeah, limited removal, it's like one of the few decks maybe like that can play it, so maybe the only one. And this card is crazy because it makes your Gadgetron 6000 attack, and not only that, but any monster on the field. So it just makes your OTKs much easier, and OTK through some like huge boards your opponent may have. And yeah, it just is unexpected. You just go attack, and your opponent has like 5,000 life points. You attack with Gastron, and they're like, okay, at least I live a turn, and then maybe I can come back. And you like go damage step, limiter, they lose. MST, of course, you play MST. You can MST your own gear town to make a Gastron during the battle phase, which is a neat little trick. And yeah, I talked about terraforming. So compose. So I'm playing 3 Compose, and Compose is great in this deck in particular. So it's actually not a very good card in this format because they can just go normal summon a guy, you bounce it, and they can just normal summon it the next turn. But this deck is all about tempo, and Compose helps you maintain the tempo. So even if they go like Whirlwind, summon Sura, you can like bounce the Sura, and kill them the next turn, because that's what this deck does. It basically just decays. And it's also good for removing annoying threats. Like your opponent has a set monster, compose it back. You don't have to care about it. That's why ground mode is also good. And yeah, a lot of the times you have like a set gear town and compose, and go heavy. Then chain compose, bounce their monster, pop the gear town, summon the Gazitron, and you can go off from there. Yeah, so instead of like normal traps like bottomless or deep region, I think compose is like mandatory in this deck because you just bounce their guys, go attack directly, and just kill them. Besides that, I like playing the Mirror Force and the Torrential. They're like staples. It's pretty good. A lot of the times they don't expect you, like, because you're playing the OTK strategy, they don't expect you to have like real traps, quote unquote, but you should have some of those, and they protect you a lot of the times. I got some opponents with Mirror Force or Torrential in the tournament. Solemn Judgment is pretty good. Stopping their like Torrential or Mirror Forces. Basically, that's why you have it in the deck. It just helps you push through more of the OTK. And Trap Dashut. I mean, this card is just great. Like, you get to see their hand. A lot of the times you just like take their Gores, because Gores is a pain for this deck. Because yeah, they just summon the token and they just stop your decay, especially if you're like going to use limiter. It just really sucks. And the MVP of this deck is basically this card, Trapstone. So this card is great. You can just flip it and just go decay, and you don't care about anything. Your opponent has oppression, your opponent has like whatever, torrential, mirror force, deep region, bottomless, you don't care. So yeah, I'm just maining 1 copy of this. As you can see, I'm assiding the other 2. A lot of the times they just come in, especially during like versus like heavy trap decks like Blackwings, or I don't know, maybe some Vayus and stuff. Yeah, this card is great. It just interrupts your opponent from anything they want to do this turn. Yeah. So the side deck, I mean, I'll talk about the extra deck first. The extra deck is pretty irrelevant, so I'm playing just the 3 Chimera deck. That's just what you need because you're playing the Cyber Dragon. You can play 2, like, it doesn't matter. You can even play 1. I recommend 2 because you have 2 Cyber Dragon. And if you want to play the 3rd one, sure. Like, the synchros are irrelevant. You don't play tuners. You just have the brain control. Like, you could theoretically brain control a tuner, but you don't really have, like, most of your monsters are like level 8, level 7. Like, you have like gear frame, I guess, and you can brain control a Gale and make like an armor master, like, sure. Or brain control a plague and make golems with your fortress, but it's not even like that great. But yeah, you should play some. I played the power tool, like, in case I wanna make a 7 and then I have limiter because it's a machine. Like, it's really corner cases. You might be asking, a lot of people ask me why I play these 2, like Chimera Tech and Overdragon, and the Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. For a long time I was playing Future Fusion in this deck and Overload Fusion. So that was another way that you could like basically just win the game. Future Fusion, either go for this guy, like Ultimate Ancient Gear Golem. You just send the golems and maybe some beasts or the Gadgetron, depending on what you wanted. And if this guy comes out, then it's pretty much game over. So he's like 4400, he does piercing, and when he's destroyed, you can special summon a golem. And yeah, this card is like, it's crazy, but I realized that the Future Fusion, it was kind of slow for the game plan. So like a lot of the times I went Future Fusion, oh great, when you're connecting, okay. I went Future Fusion, and then I didn't even have 2 turns, because it's not like this deck is immune to to other aggressive decks. So they went like Blackwings, and they either popped my Icar with the Icarus attack the Future Fusion or whatever, and just audicate me, and I just didn't have 2 turns for this guy to come out. Yeah, so I decided ultimately that I cut the Future Fusion, so I had to cut the Overload Fusion as well. Also, Overload Fusion, like sometimes you just draw Overload Fusion without the Future Fusion, and this guy is not consistent to make. You need Cyber Dragon in the graveyard, which without Future Fusion is not that likely, and you also need like a bunch of machines. So even if you have the Cyber Dragon and a machine, it's just a 1600 guy that basically pops your whole field, and that's not very good. You can just attack 2 times. It's just I didn't think it was worth it, basically, in the end. And yeah, I don't want to spend any more time in the extra deck, just play the Chimera decks. So the side deck, I'm playing 1 Breaker. This card is great. So as I said, you can play extra normal summons in this deck, and this card is great because it goes and pops the opponent's oppressions, or whatever for the matter, but usually you play it throughout oppression, since this deck kinda does struggle. So for example, if you go Gear Down into Gear Down and then go oppression, then it kinda stops your plays. Nice, we lost connection. So yeah, it's great for that matter, and it's just great removal. It's a great card overall. You don't, it's like it has 1 confliction with this deck, but you will see. Cypher Soldier. So I found out that this card exists, so it's a machine, which is great. And this card gains 2000 attack and defense when it battles a warrior type monster. So if you're playing against like Hero Beat or like any Absolute Zero deck, I just mostly use it versus Hero Beat. I was playing this deck for a long time, and Hero Beat was kind of popular, but now it kind of is fading away. So you can like omit this card, but this card I think is great because it basically is a 3350, and when it attacks over a Stratos, you just deal 1500 damage for free. And what this deck wants to do is deal damage, like as much damage that accumulates, that's the better. So yeah, this card is great. I used to play it too. I cut it to 1 because I wasn't seeing many warrior decks. Yeah, you can also pitch it for Fortress, just in case, because it's a machine. I think it's pretty good. It fits into this deck well. You can also set it, and the opponent like attacks with a Stratos and they just take 2000. That's great. Yeah. So Consecrated Light. This deck plays no darks, like except the Breaker, of course, but that's like okay, sure. But Consecrated Light, I actually don't think it's very good in this deck. Like you will see in the replays, I try to use it, but of course it's great versus Blackwings and decks that don't have outs. But most of the deck like have outs. Like of course Blackwing have Icarus attack, or like they might side in like a, I don't know, like a DD Warrior Lady or something, or like a Cyber Dragon, most likely. So they usually already side in the Cyber Dragons, so they can out discard. So it's not that great, and you actually don't have a lot of ways to protect it. Like you just have the Convulses. So even if you bust their Cyber Dragon or whatever, they just like respecial it. So it's not really great. So I might consider taking this out, but it was a good test. Sometimes they work. Like it did stall some of my opponents, like during testing or whatever. But yeah, it's optional. You can tinker with it. DD Crows. DD Crows are they're pretty good. I usually side them in versus like Vayu. They're also like great versus Nordlara's deck or whatever, but this deck has also faded in popularity, and you can like freely play it. There's not like restriction in this deck that you cannot play like hand traps or whatever. Yeah, it's just DD Crow. It's good. So this card is crazy. Zombie World. This card is a field spell that basically says your opponent cannot tribute except zombie monsters for a tribute summon, which is pretty important. So this card is like a searchable Mask of Restrict for frogs, and yeah, all monsters in the field and the graveyards become zombie monsters. This effect is also relevant because, like versus Amaryllis, their whole game plan is basically banish a plant from the graveyard, and if the plant becomes a zombie, classic DB, they just throw us out. If the plant becomes a zombie, then they can't use any of the cards. They can use Mark, they can't use like Amaryllis, they can't use the Miracle Fertilizer, and yeah, it's just great overall card. You will see in some of the matches it put in the work versus a very well known frog player. Okay, this is kind of getting annoying. I'm just gonna pause till I get the DB working again. Okay, we're back. The DB has been really bad for me these days. You will see in the tournament as well that it might have like maybe cost me top 8. No, I mean it's not really, but come on. It's really been disconnecting me and stuff. So Zombie World good. Bottomless Trap Hole. This card is great. Obviously one of the best cards versus Blackwings. Like you stop their Whirlwind Sewer Summon. That's all there is to it. So usually versus like Blackwings, I play one Depression as well. Like it might be a little sus to side Depression. I mean it kinda is, but you kinda need extra protection. So for like Blackwing matchups, I may like side out these 3 compulses and bring in the Bottomless and the Depression, because it's kinda tough to deal with the monsters. And yeah, so basically on matchups where you need more protection, you just bring these 3 in and you have more real cards in your deck. So this was a last minute inclusion. So I saw that a lot of light decks were running around. So Christus won the last UTW, and yeah, a lot of Lightsworn players. So I was like, this deck does not play any lights, like whatsoever. Like even Consecrated Light or Cyber Dragon, they don't have activated effects. So you can just play this freely, and it's great. So it just negates all the Raikos, the Lilas, the JDs. It's just a crazy card for versus that matchup, and I mean, you kind of struggle versus that matchup. Like if they JD your board, you're kind of screwed. Like whatever deck it is. So yeah, it's just a great card. I would maybe even bump it to 3, like if it's like that heavy for a light sworn meta. And the same goes for Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. Like, it's obviously less good, but versus decks like Vayu, I think it's pretty good. So it basically just stops their Greffer, their Armageddon, their like Vayu, and if it's like the new Vayu deck where it's like hybrid, where they don't really play Raikos, because of course if they have Raikos they can just pop this card, which is pretty bad. And a lot of the other decks, like I don't know, like I happen to see like Gravekeepers or whatever I said in versus that, it's pretty good. And you again don't play Darks except the Breaker. So yeah, it's pretty like both of these cards, they're pretty slept on, or actually they're not really slept on, but the top decks can really play them because it's either like dark decks or light decks or frogs where they can't really set like the continuous traps. So yeah, and of course I talked about the double trap stun. A lot of the times you bring it in versus like high trap decks. I may bring it in versus like Blackwings, because if you trap stun their Icarus, then you're golden. You can trap stun their viruses, I guess. But another thing that's great about this deck, it's like pretty immune to virus, because all your guys are huge. Like your targets are Lily and Peacekeeper, Morphing Jar, and Grand Mole. So those are just 4 targets. A lot of the time, like if you're versus a virus deck like Blackwings or whatever, you can just side out uh, Peacekeeper, Morphing Jar, and Lily, whatever. I usually never side out the Grand Mole, but you can side out the other 2, and it's like the virus is dead. They just went -2 just to see your hand, which is pretty good. I mean, you know, I love the viruses. I think just they're good, but yeah, this deck is immune to the virus, and we're in a virus meta, so yeah, we can get into the games. Other than that, things that would change, basically, do I think this deck was perfect? No, not really. Like it's pretty good, but you could definitely make some changes, like especially now that the decks are known, like Morphing Jar and stuff. You can put like some other normal summon, you can main Breaker, you can even change the Gear Golem and try the Machina Force. You can try a lot of stuff. But yeah, you can try maining more Trapstones or whatever. You can try play Gores or Trag or whatever. Nah, Trag is not very good, but you could theoretically play whatever you want. Yeah, you can tinker with this deck, and yeah. Okay, let's get into the replays, because that's where the fun is. Okay, so round 1, I'm versus Colas, and yeah, this was a Swiss tournament, so it was 7 rounds with 109 players. It was a bit on the smaller scale for these tournaments. Usually they get like maybe 180, at least 150, but sure. And round 1s are really tough, because basically if you lose the round 1, then you're kinda out of the tournament. So you kinda have to win this one. And luckily I did. So I employed a secret pana strategy. So what the pana strategy was, I picked paper. Well, I fast forwarded and you didn't see. And I picked paper throughout the tournament. And believe it or not, I actually won like it was 7 rounds, so I won 6 out of the 7 with picking paper, which is crazy. I don't know, it might be a new strategy, you might have heard it here, folks. And so I just win the die roll, and this is like, it's not a great hand. You don't have the gear frame. You usually want to go gear frame or a normal summon. Like you can see here, you don't have a normal summon, so that's why I'm saying like it's not like you have the best normal summons. But you did open Trapstone, and Trapstone is great turn 1, because you can just set the Trapstone. Then if we get like a Gear Town, you can go Gear Town, Mausoleum, special the Gadgetron, Mausoleum, special the Golem, and pitch these 2 for the Fortress, and that's like 8,000. And you could potentially also set the Compulsory, but I think I just set the Trapstone here. Yeah, my opponent sends a guy, presumably it's a Raikou, so I'm like, if it's a Raikou, I don't have the Gear Town unfortunately, so I'm gonna have to make a kinda scuffed play, but it's not really that bad, because I'm like thinking I can go Mausoleum, tribute, basically normal summon the Gear Beast, then pitch the Cyber Dragon, because you don't really wanna have Cyber Dragon and Gear Beast on the field, because they can Chimera Attack, or you're forced to Chimera Attack your own guys. So I'm just gonna go for the pressure. And yeah, Gear Beast, attack the face down. It is indeed a Raikou. My opponent doesn't know the ruling, of course. I tell him that it does not trigger, and I go face into the with the Fortress. So I'm now setting the Compose, because next turn I'm like setting up for the OTK. Whatever he sets or summons, I can just Compose it back. Mausoleum the NC Gear, and NC Gear with the Fortress, that's 35, and that's just game. So he sets a face down, and yeah, do I care? I don't think I care. I just summon the Gear Golem. I go attack with the Gear Beast. I mean, they don't really play any guys over 2000 defense. So yeah, he tries to Mirror Force, and yeah, that's pretty weird for a Lightsworn deck, but we do have the Trapstone, so we just win. And yeah, that's a pretty self-explanatory game, and it's not like I opened crazy or whatever. I just opened the Mausoleum, started normal summoning guys. He just had the Raikos, and Gear Beast destroys those guys. So yeah, this hand, I mean, this hand is not great again. Like, I kept in a Trapstone because I saw he had like Mirror Force, so I imagine he had like Torrential Tribute. And he just goes Solar Recharge. He already has 3 names. He sets a guy. I'm like, that's probably a Raiko. So I'm just gonna go pitch the Gadgetron for the Fortress. If he targets with the Raiko, then I get to pick at his hand, which is pretty good. But it was a Necro Gardener. So yeah. So here I make a mace play because I go set Mirror Force, set Trapstone, but I didn't set the Gear Town. So if he goes like Heavy Storm, if I have the Gear Town, at least I get like a Gadgetron, so it's like a mini Starlight Road. Like, it's not exactly, but yeah. Unfortunately, he does have the Heavy Storm, so he just pops my back row for free. It's pretty bad. And yeah, he goes set to his own back row, has the Mirror Force, which yeah, we would have stopped with the Trapstone. We do have the Torrential, which is pretty decent at least. So here we do have the Gear Golem to revive the fortress infinitely, basically. I decided not to summon the Gear Beast. Yeah, because exactly this can happen, so he can go Cyber Dragon. I let him go into Chimera deck. I basically have a lot of lifelines, so there's no need to Torrential. Maybe he overcommits. Unfortunately, he does not. So I draw another Golem, which is great, because as you can see, pitch it, Fortress, attack. Yeah. He goes Lila. I let him, and he basically has Honest, which is weird. I have to pop the Lila here, because yeah, he can pop my Torrential, and I kinda need it. So yeah, goes attack, take it. And here I draw the Ancient Gear Beast, which is pretty bad. And I decide that I have to pitch both to special the Fortress again. And yeah, I finally decide to set the Gear Town, because I'm like, if it JDs, at least I got like a guy, maybe. But yeah, it's not looking good for me either way. He Beckonings, he grabs like, I don't know, he makes like some questionable choices, I think. But whatever, he specials the Cyber Dragon, so he can like Chimera attack again. But I realize after that maybe he doesn't play another Chimera attack, that's why he goes for the Lumina. So he goes Lumina, picks Garrett, special the Lila, and I'm like, this is the best opportunity to Torrential. So we're kinda even now, but of course he has JD live, and I have nothing, so I basically just need to draw a field spell, which is pretty normal for this deck. I draw the Gear Frame, and unfortunately this is one of the instances that where if I had the Force, then maybe I should have gotten the Force, because then I can revive the Fortress. But yeah, it doesn't really come up, but now it did, so yeah. He goes Lila, of course we know the Honest in hand. So yeah, he doesn't mill a JD again, it's pretty bad. But we draw the Mausoleum, so we can at least go Gadgetron, attack, and now as long as he doesn't draw JD, well, of course, he draws JD, pops our field, attacks for game. And yeah, you can see DB threw me out as well there. But yeah, so right here we go first. We have drawn pretty well, so I'm like, we have the limited removal, of course, Compose, Gear Town, and I'm like, I wanna get like some guys out, so I'm just gonna go normal the Gear Beast and let him like Cyber Dragon me. I don't really care. So he goes like normal summon Raiko, attack with honest, because he's like he can't set anything because Gearbest is that strong. And I'm like, that's great, that's fine. Let me take 200. I don't care. So I go terraforming mausoleum, and I'm like, buddy, you're dead. So Gear Town, special Gadgetron. I go the mausoleum, special another Gadgetron. I'm like, this is game. So he goes start of BP. He like DD crows my beast and then tries to beckoning, but that does not work because he needs to have 2 lights in the graveyard. So yeah, he was doomed. So there was like a Chaos Light Swarm with a Twilight package like Plague Spreader, Necro. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this was a pretty good showing for the Gear Beast, especially. And yeah, so if the attack went through, he would take 28, and then attack with the Gadgetron, the limiter. That's like over 9,000. No pun intended, but yeah, it is. So, should I have compulsed the Raikou? I mean, I didn't know his back row, but yeah, after the beckoning, I could have like compulsed. But yeah, we were winning. Like his hand was not very good. And DD Crow, it's not very good in this matchup. I don't play Avarice. He just like has to preemptively crow my fortress, my whatever. Yeah. So yeah, let's go into round 2. So round 2 is versus Mr. Katz. Mr. Katz actually, well, you can see the paper strat. I win the RBS once again. Yeah, so Mr. Katz actually went 7-0 in Swiss, and this is one of my losses actually. So let's see what I did wrong, or maybe what I didn't do wrong, but let's see. Well, my hand is not very good. Like, you don't really want to draw Fortress. You just rather draw the Gear Frame. Because Fortress is kind of awkward. Like, I mean, if I draw the Gear Frame right now, you can pitch Fortress for Fortress and it's fine, and then the Gear Golem. But yeah, to Compulses, Gear Town, Brain Control, it's kind of awkward. So it's not very good. Yeah, I was also lagging out of my mind at this point. So I'm just gonna set Compulse, and yeah. So he's playing like the hybrid Vayu build with the viruses, which is pretty good. Yeah, he decides to like go a Necro and a Sirocco, and he just passes, which is kind of concerning. So like, why is he passing, and why is he not attacking? So the real reason here is that he probably just wants me to attack his Greffer, and so that he can get to like 3 darks and drop Darkham. So I make like a play. So I'm like, I don't really want him to pitch like a Vayu to make his Armwing live and whatever. So I'm like, I wanna get rid of the Greffer. Obviously, it's not gonna work with the traps. I don't know what traps he was, but it's probably gonna be like some stupid stuff. So I could theoretically pitch for the Fortress, but I'm like, I can Brain, I can go attack. Of course, he can't trap his own monster, and then I can go Gear Town and Tribute for the Golem. Yeah, but as you can see, he of course had 3 Darks. And yeah, Dark Armed, kinda rough to deal with. So he goes Prio pop of Gear Golem, of course. I let him do that. Then because I have the Compulse, I can chain whenever he targets it. So he wastes his Necrogardener basically. So I can now chain the Compulse to the Dark Arm, and at least I save some damage. And he now has only 1 Dark. But as you will see, he has the normal summon Armageddon Knight, send Vayu. He can make an Armwing, and of course he has Burial, so he has now 3 Darks again. And yeah, so he can go another Armwing, and of course I have the Gear Town, so I don't even play Track. And that's there's nothing I can do about that basically. So he had like Burial, Dark Armed, Armwing. That's just how it goes sometimes. So this hand is pretty monster normal summon heavy actually. But yeah, I can go Gear Frame, summon a Fortress. I should like yeah, I don't wanna really get Cyber Dragon, so I just hold the Fortress. I just set the Trapstone, so even if he like has Oppression or whatever, I can still Fortress. And yeah, he goes Heavy Storm. Unfortunately, get rid of my Trapstone. And yeah, so this is a hybrid build. So of course he opens Whirlwind Sirocco, searches Kalut, and I'm in a pretty bad spot because he sets his back row as well. I am like, I really don't want to get Oppression, and I make a hard read that this is like an Oppression or a Bottomless. So I'll go Breaker, Pop. It's of course it's an Oppression. It's not of course, but yeah. Thankfully it's an Oppression, so I made the correct read, and now I can safely special summon my Fortress. So I go Fortress, attack. Of course he lets that go through. Go Breaker, and I at least have some insulation with the Bottomless because that's really good against the Blackwings. So yeah, he goes Sirocco. It doesn't really expect the Bottomless because how many battle traps can I play? I play like 3 Compulsives, 3 Bottomless. Of course I set out the Compulsives for this one. I may have kept in one or whatever. But yeah, I go Gear Frame, search another Fortress, and do I go all in? I don't think so. I just attack because this is actually exact game, if I'm correct. Yeah, and his trap is another Oppression, so you can see that it's like Vanity's Emptiness or whatever. So if I already have established my board, I don't really care about the Oppression. And yeah, I just snatched the win, even though he had like Whirlwind and Oppression or whatever. So you can see that this deck can play under some of the stuff as well. So game 3. My opening is it's decent. I got the two full spells. I got the Cyber Dragon for going second, Brain Control. So yeah, he goes Dog Grapher again, like game 1, and I'm like, okay, I'll special summon the Cyber Dragon. I just attack. He let that go through. He has 3 darks again, which is annoying. I just set a card, and he goes, of course, Black Whirlwind, Sirocco, and here I think I should probably like compose this Sirocco, but I don't. I also think for a long time, so he kinda gets that, okay, this is probably composed, because if he was Bottomless, of course I would have Bottomless. And yeah, he gets Gale, he specials Gale, he halves my Cyber Dragon, he attacks. He didn't pump for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, he should have pumped. So yeah. I draw another Terraforming, and yeah, this would be pretty bad if it was Oppression again. So I should probably go for it, but I don't. So yeah, instead I go for this. I go Brain Control. I have his guy. I attack. He goes Necrogardener. So I don't really have any use to. I don't really want to draw any of the field spells again. So I just go Terraforming. Go to Gear Town, activate Gear Town, and now I can tribute the Gale for the Gadgetron, which is pretty good. Which plays around Oppression exactly. And would you look at that? It's Oppression. So yeah, he's annoying because he's like, why are you not special summoning? So yeah, this is one way to do it. So basically I just keep my resources till I know that I can play around it, and I get rewarded actually because he can doubt this. But of course he has Blizzard, and he can special the Gale, half my guy, and when he pumps he can get over it. So now I'm in a pretty bad spot actually. And yeah, so that's a pretty good draw. I can draw Gear Frame, get my Fortress, and I'm like, I have to go for it now. Gear Town, activate the Gear Town, Oppression, and here I make a huge misplay throw, but it doesn't really matter because I'm gonna lose either way. So I'm gonna go Oppression, he's gonna go Oppression again. And I'm like, okay, I can Mausoleum, but I have already normal summoned because, yeah, I took a long time to think, and I tried to cheat, but it didn't work. Okay, obviously I just forgot I didn't try to cheat. Okay, so I just attack the game. Funny enough, he can't really get over it without pumping, so yeah, I have to compose this Sura thanks to the whirlwind. Yeah, he can pump, and I guess this turn I can mausoleum, so it's not like I had to like waste the gear towns either way. Except if I drew like a heavy storm. But yeah, in mausoleum he bottomlesses and he wins the match. So yeah, not much I could have done there. I tried to play around oppression as best as I could, even if I didn't know it was oppression. But yeah, it was rough. As I said, Mr. Katz went 7-0 in Swiss, so he beat everybody. So even if it is a round 2 loss, it was a pretty good loss because he was the guy that beat everybody. And it just was his day in the Swiss rounds. And he drew pretty well. Not gonna lie, whirlwind both games and dad first game. Yeah. And we did our best to beat him. So yeah, let's go into round 3. Round 3 is versus the Frog Goat. I pick paper, so it's Roghnach, and tournament replays were wrong for this tournament because it was in format library. So I already knew he was on Ancient Gear Frogs, which is kind of wild because it's the Ancient Gear mirror match basically. And I know Roghnach knows his field spell rulings better than I do, so I'm gonna have to play really careful to win this one. So I go Gear Frame. So this hand is kind of nutty though, because it's got everything. It's got Dash, of course, Solemn Judgment, Brain Control, Terraforming, the Gear Frame. Now I can special summon the Fortress. I don't, but yeah, you can see. So I go Dashut. I basically see his hand, and I'm like Fusion Gate with Caius, Gazeltron, Stratos. This hand it has like a card from each card is from a different deck, so I'm like confused. So should I take the Gores? Should I take the Swap Frog? I probably should have taken the Gores, but I'm like, well, if he doesn't have Swap Frog, then he can never go for the Monarch. So I just take the Swap Frog, and I'm like, he has no other place. But then I can't really attack, so it's kind of awkward. Yeah, he goes Stratos Crash. He now gets the Infernal Prodigy, so he can like Caius whatever I bring out. But I do have the Solemn Judgment, so yeah. I go Special Fortress and I don't attack. So I don't really have an out to Gores right now. So I'm just like, I'm not gonna attack and wait till I at least have some kind of out. And he just sets a back row, which is awkward. Because I don't really know what that back row could be. It's probably like a Regeki break, I'm thinking. So I mean, obviously we saw it's a Mystical Space Typhoon, but yeah. Yeah, obviously it's something chainable, so I still don't want to attack into the Gores. And yeah, so right here I attack the Ancient Gear Golem, and I'm like, well, if I let him get so much advantage, then it's probably not gonna go well. So I'll keep drawing these dead Ancient Gear Golems, which are basically, it's not dead, like, you can bring back the Fortress with it. But yeah, so I think I just decide to go I'll attack. He unfortunately has the Mystical Space Typhoon, which is pretty good because he gets rid of my Judgment. Yeah, he just summons the Gores, and he can basically just sit on the Gores because I have no how to it. But I do have the Bearing Control, so I could potentially sneak a cheeky win with that one. So he goes Gores, attack. Since I see I have the Bearing Control, I realize, so if I search the Mausoleum and I bring his Gores, that's over 5500, so I can maybe win with that. And he doesn't play like a lot of traps. So I pop his token. He unfortunately sets a guy face down, but I hard draw the Mausoleum, so that's great because now I can go Gear Town, special the Gadgetron, flip the Mausoleum. I can also revive the Fortress, true. I can break control his Gores, flip the Mausoleum, and now special the Gear Golem. And since his deck is like frogs, he doesn't have like Raikos and stuff, so this guy is probably like at most 2000 defense, so he's gonna take some piercing damage with the golem. So golem's great here. And yeah, as you can see, that's a win. So game 2, I open my tech cards. So Fairy Lily and Grandma. I think Fairy Lily is pretty decent versus Frogs. So like if they have an open field, unless they got, they usually go like Swap Frog turn 1, send Treeborn, and I'm like, okay, Fairy Lily, hold this 3400. And yeah, he goes Stratos instead, which I still can beat. So here I go special the Fortress, normal Fairy Lily, and go in for some damage. So yeah, he takes 16 from Lily, 25 from the Fortress. Thankfully he has no Gores. And I'm like, this time I'm gonna like set my mini Starlight Road trap, so I wanna set the Torrential. I set the Gear Town. Yeah, he goes Instant Fusion, which is interesting. So he's probably gonna go like Chaos or whatever. Okay, he brains my Fortress as well. And this is pretty bad because, as you can see, he can go Gear Town, okay? And he summons Lad. And Lad, I can't really deal with that right now. So yeah, he activates Gear Town. Actually, Lad does not negate the Gear Town, so you can freely summon Gazeltron. So yeah, that would be pretty good if I actually drew my Gear Town. But yeah, I can't really Torrential, I can't really do anything. I can't even pay for the Lily because it will be negated and I will just insta lose. So yeah, we just hope we draw another Gear Town, but unfortunately I don't. I just flip the Gear Town just to get negated, and yeah, we can't do anything, so we just lose this one because Lad is a pretty good card. It's actually not that great versus our deck because we can just special the Gazeltrons that are immune, or the Fortress, and if it has one negate we can just run over it. But yeah, so here we draw a lot of our traps actually. I sided in bottomless for the Gazeltrons basically because I can't really get rid of them any other way. And I think I kept it in the Mirror Force because I was kind of scared of Lad, so if I had like a Compulse and Mirror Force I can actually get rid of the Lad easier. I don't know, maybe it was not a very good idea, but yeah. I go Gear Frame, which is basically our best opening. I set the bottomless, he goes Gear Town, Heavy Storm, and unfortunately that gets over our bottomless. So yeah, that's the play that we wanna be doing, but actually Roghnach did it for us. Yeah, he attacks, we take some damage, and then he goes into the Duplock, which is pretty annoying to do. Oh, yeah, he didn't actually go into the Duplock, he actually went into Swap Frog and bounced his guy. So I'm not sure why he did that. If he went into the Duplock, it would be much worse for us, I think. So I think he wants to set up for like a Lad again or whatever. But we draw the goated card, Zombie World. This card is crazy versus Frogs, so let's see how this works. I go Fortress, I special the Fortress, and then I go attack with a Gear Frame. He has Battle Fader, so yeah, I'm thinking he wants to set up like a 2 tribute Lad situation again because it basically FTK'd me last game. And I go equipped with a Gear Frame as long as it is Machine, because this card makes all the guys zombies, so I cannot activate it after. And then I activate Zombie World. And I know his Heavy Storm is in the graveyard, so I think I just said everything. Yeah. So now he can bring back the Treeborn, but he cannot tribute. So he thinks about it. Of course, Roghnach is a good player, so he knows that he can tribute set actually. But he doesn't know that I have the best out in my hand. So I just have Grandma, bounce, his Lad, he just wasted a lot of cards. Attack, and if that wasn't enough, I just Solemn Judgment. So he does have the Gores, but I do have the Mirror Force, and I don't really care about that anymore. Yeah, so he goes attack, I just Mirror Force Gores. His token is 2500, but as you can see, Grandma can just out it freely. I also have the compulse because this is just game and he doesn't no longer have doors. Yeah. So that was a pretty clean game and a good showing of the deck, a good showing of the zombie world, and even Gear Golem did some extra damage this game. And of course, it's a good player. It's Roghnach. Yeah. Let's go into round 4. So round 4 versus Simon the Hunter, Thunder, well, I don't know how to say his name, but yeah. As you can see, we pick paper, we win, because we're just that good. And he's playing 41 cards. So I believe this guy was playing Vayu? I don't know. So I believe NC Gear has one of the best matchups versus Vayu because of NC Gear Beast, of main deck Grand Mole, main deck Compulsory. It's just overall pretty good. Fortress, it just deals a lot of damage, like a lot quicker. So we open Gear Frame, that's what we wanna see. We just go Gear Frame, get the Fortress, and this hand is pretty good, not gonna lie. He sets a bunch of cards, and I'm like, the annoying thing about Vayu is that they mean main deck oppression, so if I try to go for like game right now, that's not gonna be like perfect. So instead I go, I'm just gonna go play safely, so I'm just gonna go Grand Mole, attack, and he actually had nothing, which tells me that this back row is not a battle trap, it's not Mirror Force, which is pretty important information. So yeah, he just goes set again, but he sets 2 other back rows as well, so now he probably has like a battle trap or whatever. I draw MST, and I'm like, should I gamble and actually hit one of the new back rows if it was a battle trap, so that my Grand Mole can get in? And I'm like, I probably should hold this MST for an oppression or for another time. So I just go attack again. He has the deep prison this time, so yeah. And I'm like, sure, I'm just gonna attack into the Raikou, and it's a hamster. It's pretty bad, not gonna lie. He sets the Raikou, I decide I'm gonna set the MST, and yeah. So he flips the Raikou. What does he target? He targeted my last back row, so it was compose. So right now I think I'm just gonna compose my Gear Frame, because yeah, I can get another Gear Frame in hand. As you can see, he's playing the viruses, so maybe one of his back row is a dead virus or whatever. And yeah, he's got a lot of sets, so if I actually drew the Gear Beast in this matchup, it would be great. But I don't. So yeah, he set a new back row. So I'm like, the old back rows were not battle traps. This new one might be a battle trap, like Mirror Force. So I go special Fortress. I go all in basically, because if he flips like oppression at any time, then I can MST, but he doesn't. So I'm like, okay, that's weird. So he like for sure does not have oppression, because he would have flipped it. So I'm like, okay, maybe he doesn't want to bottomless my guy. So I'll just go for the Gear Town. Gear Town, special the Gadgetron from the deck, and he goes bottomless, which is interesting. He didn't want to bottomless my Fortress, so I was like, why doesn't he want to bottomless my Fortress? He probably has another outlet, so like a Deep Prison or potentially a Mirror Force. So these old back rows were not Mirror Force, of course. So I'm like, this new back row must be like a battle trap. That's why he bottomlesses my Gadgetron and not my Fortress. So yeah, I'm like, I got it. I can go special summon another Gadgetron, and after that one sticks, I'm like, sure, I'm just gonna Mystical Space Typhoon the new one, and I bet it's Mirror Force. And it for sure, well, you can say it was Mirror Force, but he had to Soulmate. So like, I'm now 100% sure that this is Mirror Force. I'm like, I'm gonna equip with to the Fortress, go battle phase, deal 2800 damage. He cannot activate Mirror Force actually. And then I just do not attack. Like, there is no reason to attack. If I attack, he can Mirror Force, he can pop my Gear Frame, pop my Gadgetron for free, and he is at 300 life points. So that means if this is a Raikou, which is it is a Raikou, he cannot flip it. So because even if he pops one of my guys, I can even normal summon Peacekeeper and just go for game. So I'm just waiting to basically draw Ancient Gear Golem, which is kind of funny because I have the Mausoleum, and if I can deal some piercing damage, then I just win the game. So he goes Yada, he's just trying to find some kind of out. He flips the Raikou, but he does it because he drew Plague. So yeah, I do not play any kind of back row. And yeah, now he makes Colossal Fighter, which is pretty annoying to out. So I basically know this is Mirror Force Colossal Fighter that I have to out. So I can't really draw Grand Mole to out it. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to draw like Gear Golem. I draw TT, which is pretty good. So I go TT, set the Machina Peacekeeper, and basically what I was gonna do next turn, if he didn't MST me, I was gonna flip the Peacekeeper, go Torrential, search a Gear Frame or whatever, pitch the Gadgetron for the Fortress, and just go for game. But unfortunately he does have the MST for the TT. He goes Colossal Fighter, attack my Fortress. I take some damage. Yeah, he doesn't really... even if I summon like a 3000 guy now, his Colossal Fighter is at 2900 I believe because he has a Greffer. So yeah, I drew Trapstone, which is pretty good. And yeah, I'm just gonna set that, and now his Mirror Force is off, at least for the foreseeable future. He sets a bunch of cards, and he goes Raikou. Yeah, he basically sets the cards so that they do not get discarded by Fortress. And thankfully he does not mill a Vayu, which is pretty unfortunate for him, to be honest. But he does have like a Raikou in attack mode right now. So if I Trapstone, he goes Chain DDV, which is pretty interesting. So actually he's gonna pop my Peacekeeper, and my Peacekeeper unfortunately is a Hwan effect. So he does not get to search the Gear Frame right now because it was Chainlink 1 Trapstone, Chainlink 2 DDV. So he got destroyed in a Chainlink 2, so I do not search. But Trapstone is active right now. So I can go just Mausoleum, normal the Gadgetron, and go in for a bunch of damage. And he only had 300 life points left. And yeah, that's how you do it. So it was pretty hard playing around the Mirror Force and everything, but I managed to do it. So this hand is pretty good. I mean, as long as you don't see like the Gadgetron in your hand, then that's pretty alright. So I just go with a Gear Frame play because I mean I could go like Special Cyber Dragon, but I'm like I can pitch it for Fortress, maybe that's a bit better. But I don't wanna do it yet. I probably wanna hold it till I can Heavy Storm and go for like a big push. I just set the Compose, it gets Mystical Space Typhoon. Yeah, he just go Greffer. He just can deal a free 4000 damage to me. So right now I'm in a pretty bad position. So I got a Heavy Storm. It was returned, which is, I mean, still good. He can't return right now. So I decide I'm gonna go pitch and just attack his Greffer. Unfortunately he's at 3 darks, so if he has Dark Armed, then it's looking pretty bad for us. And they always have it. I don't know how they do it, but they always have the Dark Armed. So he goes pop my Fortress. He kinda has to, because if he went and popped my back row I could chain it, and then he could no longer like pop my Fortress. So even if I have to, yeah, he does a pretty cool play. So his hand is Burial and Cyber Dragon, and on the Fortress effect he basically chains Burial and puts back everything in the graveyard. So I'm like 100% dead because I can just compose his guy, but he just brings out another. So yeah, that's pretty unlucky. Dark Arm shenanigans. As you can see, like most of the matches I lost, it's like Dark Armed. So yeah, right here, it's a pretty decent hand. I got the Gear Town and the Beast finally versus the Vayu matchup, which is pretty good. And I top decked the Gear Frame, which is actually insane. So yeah, this is one of the best hunts, actually. So I can go Fortress. I think I just set the Gear Town and the Compulse. I really don't want to get Cyber Dragon, so it's kind of tough because do you want to get Oppression next turn or do you want to get Cyber Dragon? And yeah, it's usually just hold until you can go all out and OTK in one turn, because it's kind of hard playing around Cyber Dragon and Oppression at the same time. So yeah, he goes set, which is perfect. Like this is the optimal. This is probably like game. So I can go Gear Town, normal summon the Ancient Gear Beast, and set the Mausoleum, activate the Gear Town, special Gadgetron, and yeah, pitch for Fortress. And I actually think I just have to compose because it's not enough damage per game. And I'm like, come on dude, just don't have Gorgon one time. And yeah, he doesn't. So he did have the Cyber Dragon, so I'm glad that did not make the Fortress. And yeah, this is one of the cleanest ways to game. So yeah, as you can see, turn 2, game, GG's. So yeah, Vayu beaten successfully, and let's go into round 5. So round 5, it was versus Dionbrat, and this guy is actually on Ancient Gears as well. He's on like Gravekeepers with Ancient Gear field spells. As you can see, we pick paper, we win, of course. It's just our day for the rock, paper, scissors. And sometimes it just has to be in order to win. So yeah, I opened Dustsuit, which is great, obviously. And yeah, Gear Frame, Dustsuit, this is a pretty okay hand. We don't have a field spell unfortunately, but it's okay. We can go Fortress. Yeah, like if it's game 1, I always go Fortress because nobody mains decks like Cyber Dragon. Like this guy potentially could, but I don't think he does. So yeah, Fortress with a Gear Frame, it's a pretty decent turn 1 play, and we already have the other Fortress in the graveyard, and we can dash to them even if they have the Cyber Dragon, we can just dash to them right now. And as you can see, the hand is kind of awkward. So they do have the double Gear Town. So it's kind of crazy that we're actually playing mirror matches with a Gear Town. And yeah, so we of course take the Morphing Jar. We cannot take anything else, and we know the rest of his hand. Man, this dash is so good. So yeah, he can just go Gadgetron. He can just attack over the Fortress to get rid of the Gear Frame, and set 5 or set 3. But yeah, you get what I mean. So right here, I'm like, he has Dustsuit, so I retain Prio on draw phase. I really don't want him to take my Cyber Dragon, because I'm thinking it's gonna be key in this matchup, or even see my hand for this matter. So I'm like, sure, I'm just gonna go Prio, limit removal, which is kind of funny, you'd never do this shit, but yeah, limit removal, my Fortress goes up to 5,000, and now basically his Dustsuit is dead. And yeah, I think I'm just gonna go attack. Yeah, I don't revive my other Fortress, and oh, yeah, I can tribute set the Gear Beast, which is kind of funny, so sure. Because the Fortress was gonna get destroyed by the limiter. Anyways, so yeah, he draws like one of the best draws in his deck, which is Spy right now, and Spy is really annoying to deal with. Especially if I don't have the Fortress in play. So yeah, thankfully I draw Gear Golem, which is pretty good because I can go Gadgetron. Of course he's gonna bottomless this, but I have the Gear Golem now to special my other Fortress. So you can see that even if I draw these cards, it's pretty good. So I flip the Gear Beast. I'm like, if it's like a Morphing Jar or whatever, I'm gonna negate it, but unfortunately it's Spy. So he goes special summon the Descendant, and I'm like, I don't want him to draw another Gravekeeper and pop my Fortress for free. So I attack the Descendant, which is pretty bad because if he does draw Necro Valley exactly, he can like pop off here. So he can go Gear Town, Gazeltron, and then attack my guy and Necro Valley, which makes this guy 2500 defense, which is, I can't get over with right now. And yeah, so I got kind of confused because Necro Valley in Edison is kind of awful. It actually does not do any of these things that it says here. So it basically negates. I mean, it basically does whatever it does here, but yeah, it basically negates anything that targets in the graveyard. So I thought that if I attack with my fortress for some reason, that it would not trigger, which is pretty dumb actually. So yeah, I probably misplayed this turn. So I realize I'm gonna like set the Cyber Dragon and make Chimera attack because I just can. Yeah, of course you can set the Cyber Dragon to play around like bottomless. I mean, I know his back row is Trap Dasher than Road, so it didn't even matter if I didn't set. But yeah, I probably should have just attacked with a Fortress and popped like a Spy and then Special Cyber Dragon, and yeah, that would have been a little better. But yeah, I do this instead. So next turn, here's when Lily comes in clutch. So I go attack with Lily, and I go 34, and I just destroy his 2500 defense Spy, which is great. And yeah, my opponent's confused and he's like, what am I seeing here? And I'm like, bro, what am I seeing here? Like, he's playing Gravekeeper with NC Gears and he's just confused. My Lily, like, we're both playing some weird stuff, so yeah. He searches Gear Town and he goes, he goes Heavy Storm. So he wants to proc his Starlight Road, which is a pretty heads up play. Because I mean I have the Lily to out the Starlight Road, but he's kind of down bad. I draw my Gear Town, which I decided to keep because if you know in Edison, you actually cannot have two field spells face up at the same time. So if I activate my Gear Town right now, it would destroy his Necro Valley, but if he activates then his Gear Down, then my Gear Down would be destroyed. But yeah. So I just attack with Lily, and yeah, he takes a bunch of damage, and he actually draws like Gear Town into MST, and he can special summon his Gadgetron. So I just have 2000 life points. I have to Torrential here, and I'm like, come on, let me draw the Gear Town. And I'm like, finally, it's a terraforming, and I'm like, this is my turn. You were special summoning all these Gadgetrons. I just go Gear Town, special my Gadgetron. I decide to special from the grave because if I draw another Gadgetron, I can actually revive the fortress. So that's why you see me special summoning from the grave another day, because actually if I draw the Gadgetron, it's a pretty good draw. His face down is a dead Dashroot. We've been playing around it all the game. And yeah, he just draws like a Cravens, which is interesting in his deck. And I just can't draw a monster for the life of me, so he just keeps drawing monsters. Thankfully, I have the Compose, and that is game. So yeah, and for this game, I was pretty confused because I did not know the field spell rulings at all. So he goes, okay, so look at this. He just goes Gear Town, set another card, set another Gear Town, special 2 Gadgetrons, activate Necro Valley, set Spy, and then Rail Tribute me. Like, this is disgusting. Like, okay. Like, this is like even more nuts than my Kozaki virus openings. So he basically just rips my whole hand, and I just have Compose and Sharpstone. I did side in the Shadow Imprisoning Mirror for the Spies, but this game is just over. He has like a bunch of guys. I can Compose one of his dudes, and actually it's not really over because if I draw Cyber Dragon here, then I can go Cyber Dragon. Attack over the Descendant because it's 2000 and Cyber Dragon's 21, and then go into Chimera attack for 2000 attack, and I'm kind of back in the game, but yeah, I don't. So this guy just opened the nuts on me. So yeah, this hand it's okay. Like I probably like just set a card face down. Yeah, I'm gonna set MST because I actually know this about the field spells. So if you actually like MST the field spell while it's face up or whatever, like there's a lot of ways that if he goes like set a field spell and activate another effect, I can make it miss timing. So that was the point of setting the MST. Yeah. So he goes just set and activate Prohibition called Machina Fortress, which is kind of awkward. I don't really know why he would do that, but yeah, as you can see, I have no Machina Fortress. So I'm just gonna go Special Cyber Dragon. So this is like some gold format stuff, because Cyber Dragon versus Spy, yeah, whatever. And I'm just gonna go get aggressive. So Special normal summon the Breaker, attack. He just gets another Spy, and I'm like, I don't want to get brain control or whatever, so I'll just pop the Prohibition for free. It's like, sure. If he had another back row, he would have set it, because I had two back rows, so it's probably like he doesn't have much back row. Anyways, and I have the Mystical Space Typhoon. So yeah, he goes Necro Valley, and yeah, that's kind of annoying. I think, yeah, I can go Terraforming into Gear Town, and I can actually go Gear Town, pop his Necro Valley, yeah, that's true. So now he doesn't have the attack boost. Yeah, I didn't have to waste my MST, I just activate the Gear Town. And next turn is where some shenanigans happen. So actually he goes Descend and activate Necro Valley, which pops my Gear Down, and this would actually trigger my Gear Down, believe it or not. I thought that it would actually make it miss timing, but it actually doesn't. It just straight up triggers. So he tries to like chain and some like he actually tries to go emergency teleport chain Necro Valley or whatever, like Necro Valley is equipped play, and I'm like sure that doesn't trigger either way, because I thought it did not trigger. So he kinda bamboozled me, and yeah, he special summons the Psychic Commander, and I'm like, oh, he's gonna go for Black Rose, so I'm gonna have to compose something. And yeah, compose the other guy. The Psychic Commander can get over Breaker, but I'm like, I'm not gonna compose him because it gets balanced by teleport. So I'm just gonna hit with a Cyber Dragon right now. Right now he's just stalling with the Crabbones basically, and I don't really have a good out. So I'm like, I'm just gonna pop his Necro Valley for whatever. And yeah, he normal summons Commandant, but he doesn't realize I popped his Necro Valley. So yeah, you can see that like this game is not a very good. It's not very good gameplay. Like this guy just attacks with a Commandant, like he just takes 500 for no reason. I just pop his back row. It's a Dust Tornado, whatever. And yeah, I can't really terraforming actually, because Cyber Dragon is like a floodgate of my own. Because if I summon the Gadgetron, then I have to Chimera attack. So I'm just gonna poke in for the 800 every game. He goes and makes Goyo, and finally my bottomless is active, and I just go attack with the Cyber Dragon, and that's game. So yeah, that was a pretty suspicious gameplay, but this guy made actually top 16 as well, so it's not like you can say he's bad. So yeah, let's move on to the next round, round 6. So the tournament is 7 rounds in total, and this guy, I think his name is Transom or Hwan on the B, and I'm pretty sure he's on Vayu. He's also on 41, so I don't know about this 41 meta on Vayu. But of course we picked paper, we go first, we draw the fortress, and a lot of the times you will see me do this play, so I'm just gonna... Oh, well, I didn't do it. I usually just normal summon the Gramo, but yeah, since I don't have the gear frame, I'm just gonna set the Peacekeeper, and Peacekeeper is a great way to just get the gear frame rolling. And I'll just set the MST just to bluff some protection. He goes Charge, he misses a Sirocco, which is pretty good. And yeah, he goes Allure, he has all the good spell and traps. Goes Armageddon Knight, thinking it's probably like a Raikou of my own. But of course it's the Peacekeeper. So now I search the gear frame and I'm pretty happy. Yeah, so right here, this is crazy because I draw the mausoleum, and as you can see, I go gear frame, special the fortress, go search a gear town, set the gear town, set another gear town, special the Gadgetron, special another Gadgetron, and this is pretty sure, is it game? I'm pretty sure this is game, yeah. So you can see, like, turn 2, actually turn 3 or whatever, this was just game because I searched the gear frame from the Peacekeeper, so that was pretty good if you wanted to see a use of the Peacekeeper. And yeah, so he searched the Raikou, and I'm pretty sure this is Raikou. Unfortunately, again, I do not draw my gear beasts. I do not side any of them out. Like 99% of the games, I keep in the beasts, especially versus this matchup. But I did not see them. I'm just gonna have to go gear frame. I'm just gonna have to go Cyber Dragon, and of course he hard drew the Oppression, which is pretty bad for us. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have to win this round because right now I'm like 4-1, and yeah, if I go 5-1, I'm basically guaranteed to get into the top cut. So I'm really try-harding this match, and I'm just gonna go normal the gear frame. Thankfully, the Oppression was like, it's okay, it's just for the Cyber Dragon, it could have been worse. And I do have the Mausoleum in hand. Yep, he just goes Dark Greffer, Armwing, of course he hasn't seen any of my Gores. So yeah, and usually you don't play Gores in this deck, it's like you have the field spells, it's pretty conflicting. So here I decide, instead of going for the Mausoleum, and because if that card is like a bottomless, I'll just straight up lose. I'll just go for the display again. Like I do it a lot actually. So I go Brain Control. I attack this guy. Does he have Necro Guard now? Okay, he actually has Deep Prison. So yeah, instead, I guess if I normal the Gear Golem would have been better. So what I was gonna do was terraforming for the Gear Town. But yeah, now I'm just forced to normal summon like a fortress or whatever. I don't know, I just summoned the fortress. I thought maybe I should have summoned the Gear Golem. I don't know, it's kind of better. But yeah, I just thought like if you get over it, then I can just pop something or whatever. Yeah, but I go attack, and unfortunately it's a Mirror Force, so yeah, I'm pretty much dead at this point. So yeah, you can see that Oppression is still pretty good. I threw the traps on a bit too late, and we just lose that one. But yeah, let's see this one. So we have the Crows right here. This hand is pretty bad. We have both Cyber Dragons, Insecure Gadgetron, and Torrential. So yeah, but he normal summons Trooper, and I'm like, wait, this is kinda good actually, because actually my Cyber Dragon can get some value. With a Chimera tech, he does not get the draw because of the Trooper, and we're just getting some free damage. He kept in the Deep Prisons, so Deep Prison versus this deck is interesting because it's actually, Deep Prison is actually the greatest card versus Fortress because it can just banish the Fortress and get rid of the equip gear frame, but it's also does not work versus the NC gears. So it's kind of a dilemma my opponent has to go through, like, do I keep it in the Mirror Force? Do I keep in the Deep Prisons? And it's weird. So yeah, now he just has a Vayu, and I'm like, I just special summon my other Cyber Dragon, just keep on racking up some damage. He goes Cyber Dragon special, I let that go through, and he actually has 3 darks. I don't think I even noticed this time. And he goes Dad, and like he didn't expect that at all. He was too hasty, so I go Torrential, and I'm like, wait, I'm actually not, right now I'm just winning this game. So yeah, he was not expecting Torrential at all because my deck is like playing just no backers, usually like Trapsons and stuff. So yeah, I'll just go Gear Frame, get my Fortress. I'm pretty free to special summon it. He didn't even have the Oppression, so there's nothing to be afraid about. I don't even know what his back row is. Oh, okay, it's like another deep region, so he has like, he kept all the deep regions in for the fortress, which was pretty good, like, in this game. So yeah, if I draw like a gear town, I think I just have game either way, because I can just brain and normal summon the gear golem. But yeah, I draw the gear down either way. So I go brain control, gear town, to play around like, I don't know, like torrential, whatever. And yeah, I even right now he doesn't torrential, so I'm like, okay, so I can normal summon freely. I go gear golem, so yeah, he can't even have mirror force, so I can just attack with the Gadgetron, attack with the gear golem, immune to mirror force. And yeah, he says the torrential was so good. I even had the crow as a backup. I could have like crowed his dad like earlier, but I wasn't even paying attention. But thankfully he played into torrential and we won. So I'm like 5-1 right now, and right now I believe my second round opponent is 6-0. So my only loss is to the undefeated guy, and I'm like, I'm pretty much gonna make it. So I don't even care, like, if I lose one round, let it be round 7. So let's move on to round 7. It's versus DRVYZ. I don't know how to say his name actually. I think it's Tries or whatever, I'm not sure. And this guy actually won the whole tournament. He's on Zombie Teledad. We go paper, and this guy is too good. He finally picks scissors. So I'm like, oh, this guy knows what's up. He's also on 40 and not 41. And yeah, I saw he's on Teledad. Well, I think this is probably my worst game. I played like pretty horrendous this game. So yeah, he wins the Dyro. He goes Didro Mali, which is crazy. And he just passes. I'm like, okay, that's obviously like a Gorz. And I think I just summoned Grandmo, set a back row, and I'm like, I don't wanna get Gorzed. And of course this game was on stream, actually. So of course I'm gonna lose this game if it's on stream. So yeah, he goes Mali into Caius. It's pretty bad. I think I let that go through. And yeah, so I draw the heavy, which is, it's kind of awkward. But of course he has Trap Dashed, so he can take my Lily, which is a pretty good out to Caius actually. So I try to go for this, like heavy my Gear Town to at least get the Gadgetron, but he has Wing Blast, and I'm like, oh, I just lose this game, I can't do anything. So he just goes Wing Blast, set my reset my whole turn, like I draw this for next turn, so it's dead, and I basically like I just have to compulse it because it's too much damage. So he goes Krebens, I basically have to draw pass, it's like he skipped my turn, and I'm like, I have to draw like another field spell or it's done. I draw Beast, which is like alright, but I just know he has Caius, so there's nothing I can do. So yeah, this was pretty miserable. So I saw like, I didn't know what his deck was exactly, so I saw like Krebens, Dark Arm, Malicious, all the Destiny heroes that are dark, and I'm like, well, I can try Consecrated Light. Like, it's not the craziest idea, because like most of his deck is dark, and I was not sure if he was like on Goblin Zombies and stuff, and I'm like, all the zombies are dark, so I was like, I'm gonna try it Consecrated Light. Like this round, even if I lose, it doesn't really matter. So I'm like, I normal the Consecrated, I don't have any protection, but I'm like, it better do. And it kinda did. Like, he set a monster, so it's probably like a dark monster. And I have nothing good to add to it though. So I just have to go Gear Town, special the Gadgetron, and I'm like, I'm gonna go just poking for some damage. Unfortunately it's Sangen, so he searches them as Licious, so I'm like, okay, he probably has like Didro or whatever. And of course he does have the Didro again. And here I don't crow because I have the Consecrated up, but he has the out. He has the Brain Control, my Gadgetron, which is crazy because he can like go attack, and now he can like tribute for Caius and pop my field spell, and I'm like, okay, Like, this is the end of the game. Like, he just went plus a million, like, on me, and the cards in my hand are dead. Dropstun doesn't even matter anymore. I basically need, like, yeah, and he even had the Stratos to out the Consecrated, so I wouldn't really side it versus this matchup. It's not very good. So I draw the second Consecrated and I'm like, yeah, I know you have the Stratos, I can't even set this, I'm just done. So he summons the Krebons, just goes and pokes in for some damage, and I'm like, I better draw anything good. I draw the Limiter, and the Limiter is dead here. It can be a bad card sometimes, like, yeah. So I'm just like, maybe if I set a guy and the face down, he does not summon the Stratos, so if he attacks with these guys, then I leave with the Consecrated, and then if I draw like a Gear Town, I can tribute it for the Gadgetron. That was kind of my thinking, but of course he can just like make Dark End and pop my guy for whatever he is, and yeah, he just continues to attack. I just MST the Caius. I go Crow the Malicious. I don't know, maybe bait him. I don't know, but and yeah, it was basically game over. I couldn't do anything in this game. This guy cooked me. Yeah, but as I say in the chat, if I had to lose one, it better be this one, because I was already like guaranteed. So 5-2 versus this guy that had lost only once, and versus the other guy that went undefeated. It was basically guaranteed, and I think I finished like 7th in Swiss. So if it was a top 8 tournament, I would have made top 8 either way. And yeah, so let's go into the top 16 match actually. So top 16 versus Salamandar, and he's actually on Machina, but his build, as you can see, Epic Paper, I win. His build is like pure Machina, but I just clicked on one of his replay and he had like Jinzo, so that like bamboozled me. I'm like, maybe it's like Jinzo OTK. I didn't really have much time to examine his replays. I just saw like he had Jinzo, and I'm like, okay, that really confused me. But this hand is great. This hand is like one of the best hands I could open. So I go Gear Frame, get the Fortress, and yeah, this guy could main deck Cyber Dragon probably, like the Machina list too. So I'm like, I'm not gonna special the Fortress. There's no need to. And I set the MST as bluff. It's probably, I shouldn't have said it, because yeah, he can just go Lila, pop it, and that's pretty bad, because like the only thing this hand is missing is like some kind of back removal. But I'm like, I don't really care, I'm just gonna go in. So I go Beast, so this guy would for sure get rid of his Lila, and it's immune to Mirror Forces, and he decides to go Torrential, and I'm like, Torrential here? I have Terraforming, Cyber Dragon, Fortress, Limiter, like I have to go for it, so I go Special Summon Fortress, like unless it's like Bottomless, and since he doesn't Bottomless here, I'm like 100% sure it's not Bottomless, so I go Gear Town, and yeah, I go Special the Gadgetron. The awkward thing is I kind of have to attack with the Gadgetron first, so if it's a Mirror Force, I'm kind of cooked. So I have to attack the Gadgetron, and then if he lets the Fortress go through, then I can go Limiter to make the Fortress 5000, and that's game. So I go attack Gadgetron. You can see I thumbs up a lot, because once you can go into battle, he cannot activate spell traps, so I want to make sure he knows that. So he takes the 3000, I attack with the Fortress, I pray it's not a battle trap, and unfortunately it's a Deep Prison. So yeah, it's pretty rough right now. And yeah, I'm kind of minus. I do have the Limiter, so I'm like, if I kinda like throw like a Beast or some other way to convert, then I can choose the win with the Limiter. He goes Set a guy. I draw Mausoleum, which is like crazy. It's pretty awesome. There were a lot of dead throws in my deck. I special summon the other Gear Town, and I'm like, as long as this is not Raikou, this is game. And of course, it is Raikou. Thankfully, his mills are awful. Oh, what did I click? Okay. Thankfully, his mills are awful. He has no fodder for Avarice, and I think he did have Avarice in his hand. But still, he's up a card on me. And I'm like, he sets a back row as well. I'm like, oh, this is pretty awful. And I finally draw the beast. I'm like, yes, this is great. I go Mausoleum, pay 1000, so normal summon the beast, and I'm like, any battle trap can do it. Like, he didn't have bottomless, his torrential is in the graveyard, like both of his bottomless is actually in the graveyard. So I'm like, this is a win. So I go attack with the gear beast, even if it's Raikou, I don't care, it's a plague, that's okay. And I go attack, he takes the 3000, I go damage step, and limiter for game. That's great. That's what the deck does. And unfortunately, right here, I was lagging like crazy. I couldn't even click the side deck button. But yeah. So I drew this hunt. If I drew like a gear frame, this hunt would be pretty good. He goes Card Trooper. I'm like, that's great. I can Cyber Dragon the Card Trooper. But I'm like here, so do I need to Heavy Storm? Like, if I Heavy Storm right now, I can go Cyber Dragon, get rid of his Card Trooper, and I'm like, that's I don't have like anything else I can do. I don't have like to normal summon the Gear Beast or the Gadgetron or whatever. And I'm like, I probably wanna like keep the Heavy Storm and let my Morphing Jar resolve. So that's kind of what I did. And I just go like, what are the chances that he has like bottomless? So I just special summon the Cyber Dragon. I'm like, if he gets rid of it, then it's fine. But he does have Karma Cut, which is awkward. He pitches the Plague. I'm like, now it's kind of awkward because he doesn't really have a lot of cards in his hand. So even if I set the Morphing Jar, I'm gonna have to discard 2 cards, and he's probably gonna discard like a lot of cards. And I really don't want him to mill another 3 and get the average life or get the draw from the Trooper. And I'm like, I kind of have to get rid of this Trooper. So here, if I hit a Fortress, it would be great. So I go mill with the Trooper, and if I hit the Fortress, I can also special summon with the Gadgetron. That's what I'm thinking. And yeah, unfortunately, I hit like nothing. I'm like, at least I'll attack. Probably he doesn't have Gores. Yeah, he doesn't. And I'll just set the Ancient Gear Beast because I just have to get rid of this Trooper. And I'll just pass. So it's not looking too good. I mean, I'm still like up a card because he used the Karma Cut. And but he does have Plague in the graveyard. So right here, he actually sets a back row and he does nothing, which I found kind of awkward. I'm like, is he bricked or what? So I flip the Ancient Gear Beast. I go get him some damage. I'm like, okay, this game is going great. Actually, right now he's at 41. I can pretty easily kill him. And I can set the Morphing Jar. I can set my whole hand. And right now, if he does, like, if he's bricked again, or if he like sets a monster, then I'm just gonna go Morphing Jar and draw into my whole field spells, then Heavy Storm, and he's just done. Or whatever. I even have Compulsory, so he needs to have like some super explosive stuff to turn this around. So of course he has the Cyber Dragon. I'm like, well, that's pretty bad for me because I can't do anything about it. I can't compulse the Cyber Dragon. He goes into Chimera Tech, and I'm like, wait, if he has Caius and he Caiuses my Morphing Jar, I just straight up lose. So I have to compulse the Chimera Tech instantly. So it's like I just have to do it. And he goes Gear Frame, which is great for him. Again, he probably just drew it. And yeah, he at least will have to proc my Morphing Jar. And Morphing Jar is really clutch right here. He pitches 3 cards, which is Brain Control, Fortress, and of course Caius. So my read was completely correct. I go ahead and draw 5 cards. And it's not like the best 5 cards, to be honest. But yeah, he also goes and draws 5 cards. I'm just like, he went first. At least don't have Dash it. Don't take my Gear Frame. And of course he sets 2. And wouldn't you know it, he of course has Dash it. And right here, of course there's just one pick. He just takes my Gear Frame. And oh yeah, he's like, put back gear. I'm like, bro, all my deck has gear in the name. Do you want me to put back Beast? And like he's like put back the gear frame. And yeah, at least like here it's pretty cool. I have kept the Pro Heavy set, so I can heavy. Oh, his back row is gone, but I'm still like not in a good spot because I can pitch the Gear Beast and summon the Fortress and just crash, because if I go Mausoleum, normal Fortress and crash, he can pop my Mausoleum, so I don't really want to do that. And yeah, it's not looking great. Like, I'm up a card, but as I said, card advantage does not really matter here. So I just set the Solemn in case something happens, and of course he draws the Force, and I'm like, yeah, I don't really have an out to this, so I kinda have to Solemn this. Like, it's pretty bad, but I do. So he sets a back row, I draw Fortress, which is not ideal. Like, if it was like in level 8, I could just pitch it for the Fortress, but unfortunately for the Trooper mill, I milled some of my level 8, so it's less likely to draw them. And I'm like, at least I'll just clear his back row, which is a Vortex, which is actually heads up play for him because he kept Mirror Force in hand and he just wanted to bait my MST. So if it was like a misplay I made this match, it was probably this. Like, I should have like considered that the back row was fake. Like, he knew how the MST and should just have kept it. And yeah, as you can see, this Mirror Force wins him the game because I just go attack into Fortress. He draws a monster, and yeah, I draw another Fortress, which is awful, like awful draws. And I'm like, I can't do anything else, I just attack. He kept the Mirror Force, and yeah, and he top decks like the third gear frame, which is actually nuts because he can just get the Force, and I just lose. So yeah, I don't know. I think that was kind of unlucky on my side, even though I played pretty well. And this hand is actually awful. This hand is straight up awful. Like, I was thinking a lot in the side. I'm like, okay, I should keep like the compulses. I kept 2 compulses, and I'm pretty sure I kept in the bottomlesses as well, and maybe maybe I didn't put in the depressions because of the Lilas and stuff. But I'm like, I'll just go aggressive and keep in some of the compulses, and maybe I draw one. And I drew both, and I drew the Gear Beast and the Golem, so with the Grand Mole, and basically my whole hand is dead. And yeah, this is kind of funny because okay, you can see my hand, yeah, but you can't really see my opponent's hand. Obviously, I'll just go like normal Grand Mole, set the compulse or whatever, and this is pretty bad. I'm just hoping that I draw like a gear frame. Like, a gear frame would be dope. But you can see my hand, right? Okay, look at my opponent's hand. My opponent has gear frame, Caius, brain control, Gores, and solemn judgment. Like, the quality of the 2 hands is crazy. Like, just compare the hands, and let's see his draw for turn. Like, another gear frame, that's even more nuts. And like, yeah, I'm just like, they don't want me to win, I swear, because I was like AFK for like 5 minutes. I had to reboot my whole computer. The DP was throwing me out. I was like, I had to log in. I was relogging every damn time. So yeah, I was not having a good time. Like, I was trying to play this game, like I was trying to not get disqualified, and I even and right now I'm just staring down like the worst card in the game versus the best card in the game, and it's rough because he can just go gear frame, search his fortress or whatever, and attack, and I'm forced to bounce. I'm like, I can't do anything. I just need to draw some crazy stuff to maybe come back. And he pitches the fortress either way, so yeah, he does not have like any background. I'm like 99% sure he has Gores, and he just wants me to attack Gores. Like, there's no chance he has no background. I'm like, I drew Mirror Force, which is pretty good. So here I could have like attacked with Grand Mole and forced his Gores, and but then I was like, he's gonna Caius my Grand Mole or my back row or whatever, and I'm like, I don't want to have it. I'll just let him commit like some of his stuff, and then hopefully he plays into the Mirror Force. So he grabs Fortress again for some reason, and he like says he didn't search the right one. Mind if I change? I'm like, bro, I have the worst hand in the game. My PC is lagging. I'm trying to. This is top 16. I'm like, no, you can keep your Fortress. So yeah, he sets a card, and I'm like, I draw Cyber Dragon, and I'm like, wait, I could maybe cook something with the Cyber Dragon. So I normal summon the Grandmo. I set the Mirror Force. I'm like, okay, hopefully he overcommits, and he just plays into the Mirror Force, and I'm like, wait, he's doing it. So he just searches another Fortress. He goes pitch for the Fortress special, and I'm like, yeah, that's fine. He doesn't equip, and I'm like, wait, am I just gonna win? This is just great. So I go Mirror Force, and of course he has the Solemn Judgment. Like, why else would he do that? So maybe I should have like set the Typhoon as well, and at the start of the battle phase I should have MST'd his back row, and that would be like crazy. But yeah, I didn't do that, as you can see. So I end up having to bounce again with the Grandmo, and I'm just giving him pluses and pluses and pluses, and he just goes attack with the other guys. I lose a bunch of life points, so my Mausoleum is kinda dead, and I draw the worst card in the game again, like Gear Beast. This Gear Golem, Gear Beast, and I have not drawn a Terraforming or a Gear Frame this game, and it's just going awful. So actually, his field is wide open, and like this is a prime opportunity to just go for game, and I'm like, I can just steal the game right now, but I don't have anything. So I just go Cyber Dragon, I go into the Chimera Tech, summon the Grandmo. I'm like, I'll just attack with the Cyber Dragon and bounce his Gorge back, and it's just gonna have to be good enough. Like, I can't do much else. Like, I set my whole hand right now, because either way, even if he Heavy Storms, I just lose. Yeah, he goes Brain Control. I'm like, yep, this is over. But thankfully he just doesn't summon his Gear Frames. He's like afraid of Torrential, which is understandable, and I just have to go compose my own Chimera Tech and then compose his token. So theoretically I still leave, but he goes Gear Frame, draw Machina Force, pitches the Machina Force, specials the Fortress, sets another back row, and I'm like, okay, if I draw Cyber Dragon right now, I have the MST for his back row, so yeah. If I draw Cyber Dragon right now, I win. Or there are like some cards that could win me the game. Like Fortress is also pretty good. Like Gear Frame actually is even crazier, because yeah, I could also deal some damage with that. And yeah, so but Cyber Dragon is basically what I'm banking on. But I draw the limiter removal, which is like a punch in the face, because if I drew it last turn instead of the Gear Beast, then Chimera Tech Fortress, attack directly, limiter removal, 4000, it would have been game. But right now, my hand is like 4 bricks. All I can do is set the Gramo, set the limiter, he has the Caius, and yeah, that's just game. My deck failed me my last round, and next turn I will have drawn the Gadgetron, which is also fake. So yeah, I just happened to not see Gear Frame or any of the Gear Towns, and yeah, if you don't see any of those, then these guys are just bricks. So that's why I'm considering maybe like cutting down on some of them. Like, they literally just lost me this match and the top 16. But yeah, hopefully it was a good showcase of the deck. It is actually like one of the main reasons to play this deck is that it's so fun. Like, special summoning a lot of machine guys, huge guys, 3000 attack guys that do piercing and are immune to battle traps. Like, that's great. You can just go and OTK your opponent there too, and they don't expect it. You flip traps on them, and they're like, "Whoa, what happened?" You flip the limiter removal, and they're like, "Oh, I'm safe." No, no, you're not. You suddenly go from 8,000 to 0 very quickly, and yeah. So maybe I'll play this in the upcoming RBT again with some changes, and hopefully I do well. It probably will have been over when this video is uploaded, so we will see. Maybe I make a follow-up NC Gear top. That would be crazy, like back-to-back tops with NC Gears. And yeah. So yeah, I like that this deck is it's kind of under the radar, and I think it's pretty good. It's like, it's not like D tier or F tier that everybody is putting it at. It's kind of decent. Like Gear Beast, Golem, like the fortresses, they're pretty good. But yeah, other than that, tell me in the comments if you like this deck, and if you think I should change something, or if you have like some spicy techs I should use. And yeah, so see you in the next one. Bye.